Ed Goddard leads a new generation of distance talent in New South Wales, 28:45.
I think running is one of those things which is hard to answer why you do it. Running puts you in that headspace and frame of mind where you are doing something which can be painful and it can hurt when you do it. The periods where you've got to work through hard things or hard training weeks, in those big long threshold or tempo workouts or big track sessions where you've just got to break everything down and get through it. These are the things which you do look back on and you can be most proud of yourself. I'm Ed Goddard. I'm a 23-year-old runner from Mossman, Sydney, Australia. I run mainly the 5K to the half marathon distance, and I'm studying online at Iona College in America with plans to potentially go back there later in the year, but we'll see. Running to me is one of the most important parts of my life. I feel like it gives you so much to do, allows you to travel the world, meet new people, and it's just something I couldn't live without. Not many other sports allow you to see such a big part of the world. My favourite run is what I call the world's greatest loop. It starts from Mossman Bay and goes through Cremorne, Kirribilli and Neutral Bay, under the Harbour Bridge to North Sydney, and then back. We always finish at Open Circus Cafe, then go to the beach, and to me that's just the perfect morning run. There is such a big individual aspect of running, but it is that whole community where everyone is on their own path, but everyone overlaps and they all go through the same things. Everyone gets those endorphins, anyone can go to different places and run. Everyone's obsessed with new shoes or new technologies, and runners talk to other runners about this stuff. There's such a big community, which everyone's part of it, and I think that's the main thing with running. My advice to anyone starting out on running is you just got to pursue it for a few weeks, a few months, just get a bit of repetition and you'll experience a lot of different things. You'll get those endorphins, you'll go through tough periods, but once you sort of follow it through, you'll look back on yourself and how far you've come and you'll be like, wow, this is something I really want to keep pursuing. So we got 2K, 1K, 1K, and then 9 by a lap. And then we're going to finish with the 2K. So I got a marathon. The marathon trials coming up in April. So hopefully run a qualifier. I've been doing some big weeks of training, so fingers crossed. I personally am someone who is big on routine. So if you're running, like having routines like what time you start your run in the morning or what time you go in the afternoon, or even just following a training plan. I think the main things with routine is finding which goals you can set for yourself, which you're going to be able to do for a long enough period of time. There's no point of setting things for yourself to tick off which aren't feasible. I like to journalize all I do, which I write in these diaries. So I've got about 5 of them. I've been doing them for an extended period of time now. And it's cool, even like any random day, you've got a morning run and an afternoon run. And it's almost just like, it's a piece of a puzzle. I think growing up with running around the Sydney school scene was really cool. Every weekend would race guys like Ed Trippus, Ollie Hoare, Cam Griffith, Zach Facchione. It's pretty cool to grow up with them and see everyone do amazing things. That whole school scene was where I made my first big jump in running. I was coming 5th or 6th in the GPS comp, and I went on to win it in the year later in 2014 in year 11. Always in the back of my head, wanted to be good at it and knew I'd get there eventually, but it was that sudden jump which really gave me that taste of competitive running.
It's Goddard at the front.
My advice to any younger runners coming up would be make sure you run, but make sure you do it for enjoyment. It's that enjoyment which will take you through to the next level.
New South Wales will also finish on the podium with Goddard. He did a lot of the grunt work early.
One whole thing with COVID which was so difficult is you do focus on yourself and you're absorbed in what you're doing. Now sports are back on. I'm looking forward to being able to sit down and watch and chill out a bit to them. Some of my favourite teams on the wall, we've got Roma and Chelsea, my two favourite football teams. All my family's in England is in Surrey, so it's just the local team. The Chicago Cubs, my parents lived in Chicago in the early 80s. And then Tokyo Swallows. Went to Japan 4 times in 2019. Watched a lot of baseball games. Being over there, like not many people spoke English in the countryside where I was, but I go down to the batting cage and go for a hit, and it's just, sport is that universal thing like running is, where everyone speaks the same language if they've got that enjoyment of it. I think music's one of those things like running. It's that whole exploratory nature of it. Like you run because you enjoy it and it takes you places. Like same thing with music, like especially listening to old music, there's just so much history. Like you can listen to someone like Robert Johnson who wrote a song in the 30s, which is then done by the Rolling Stones in 60s or 70s. That whole process to get you where you are now, it's just like the same thing the whole music industry did go through, and there is no better feeling than buying a record or pulling out one of Dad's old ones and putting it on the record player and listening to it the first time. I can put a record on. Listen to anything 60s, 70s, 80s, Bob Dylan, Rolling Stones, Thin Lizzy, Deep Purple, Lynyrd Skynyrd, so many different things. 2 favourite albums of all time, Let It Bleed by the Rolling Stones and Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy. Both pretty big albums for their time, a lot of poetry and motion going on here. I've actually started running with music when I'm running on my own or I'm working out, because I feel like it is a big training aid. I always thought, don't run with music, you don't want to get reliant on it, but you just want to get through your training as best you can. Like, if you enjoy it, you're going to want to do it more. I think you do have to be slightly crazy to run, and there is that slightly obsessive nature which really does drive you forward. Like, you do have to really enjoy it or be slightly mad to do it day in, day out. It's sort of that same thing with music as well. Like, for every different loop you can do on a run or different way you can run through the city, like there's a whole other band left to explore or a different era of music. I think the half marathon distance is so tough because it will take you out of your comfort zone. It's a distance where you can be feeling so good at 10Ks or 15Ks even, but it really throws you in the deep end trying to get to that last 10 minutes. In Wales at the Commonwealth Half Marathon, I dropped a minute in the last 4K through a pulled muscle, and it's experiences like that which do make it such a tough distance, and it's not the distance you can bluff. Like, you have to be fit to be able to race it well.
He runs under Benson Morris with Run Khoo, amazing talent, he's only 23 years of age.
There's a lot of pressure around Launceston and going into it, it being the only half marathon I'd run at the time for the last year and a half, so there are a lot of uncertainty about it. The race itself went out pretty hard, and I was feeling really good to 15, 16Ks when Brett pulled away. I didn't really want to be that guy sitting in and just drafting the whole way, so I was running alongside him. I think I probably could have saved a little bit more energy for the end, but I was feeling good and I was enjoying myself so much. I was going to help out a little bit if I could. Running with guys like Brett Robinson is a really cool experience. You get so much joy out of being up the pointy end of a race, and running with these guys you look up to so much. I think that's the cool part about road racing. Like, anyone can race anyone. Like, it's not like a track race you have to qualify for. Like, you're in a road race and like everyone's in the same boat.
Box Hill Athletic Centre for the 2020 Zatopek 10.
Zatopek was almost the direct contrast to Launceston. I think the race itself, because it did go out pretty hard, you just sort of had to lock in, and it wasn't one of those joyful running experiences, one of those out-of-body experiences where you feel effortless.
We've got Brett Robertson out in front with Jack Rayner back to McNeil, then Ed Goddard, the New South Wales champion.
It's almost the other side where you've just got to lock in, and you know it's quick and you know you're going to hurt, but you sort of just have to be prepared to do that.
I feel like they've opened this up a little bit more, maybe a 65 there.
It's just one of those tough parts about track running, which is just lapping when you're hurting and you know you've got 2, 3, 4 laps to go. It's not like a road race where you got the finish line in the distance and you're always working towards it. You feel like you're going through the same thing over and over again and then trying to prepare yourself for a last lap finish. So that was tough, and finishing with a 22-second PB, I was pretty happy with myself.
And Ed Goddard, he'll cross the line 28-25.
I think my greatest achievement would be 4th at World Union Games in Naples. I let it out. It was 30 degrees and 100% humidity, and you went through so many different experiences that race of feeling good and overheating and trying to get fluids on board, which I'd never put myself in that situation before. Being overseas racing with your best mates is one of the coolest experiences. After the race we went and hired a speedboat in Naples and did the same thing the next day, just chilling in the harbour in a foreign country on a boat you've just hired. I'd say the toughest part of running is anytime you face uncertainty. One night, probably about 3 months ago now, I was lying in bed and I was trying to stretch my leg, but I couldn't bend my knee past 90 degrees. And I was like, I've got a workout in the morning, what's up? Jog before the workout, it feels okay, not great. I was pretty nervous, didn't really want to do high knees or many drills before, I just sort of wanted to get on with it. Did the workout, pretty big workout, but got through it fine. A few days later, 16k tempo. Got through it, felt really good. It was pissing down with rain. With about 2 minutes to go, I just felt this thing go in my foot and I was like, did I just roll my ankle or stand on something? I finished it. I thought I had a big blister on the back of my foot, but I didn't. I was like, I have no idea what's causing all this pain. Next day, around 30 minutes, I was like, this is pretty sore. I got some needling, but it wasn't getting any better. And then, yeah, a few days later, got the MRI, and yeah, even though I ran 160 Ks the week before and 20 Ks the morning of my MRI, 3 centimeter crack through my calcaneus in my heel. I think it was probably high pain threshold or not being in that pain before that I just sort of pushed on. Being in the boot really is a reminder that you've done something pretty bad.
Probably one of the biggest stress fractures I've ever seen, in a very odd spot as well. Normally we're looking at tibia or within the actual foot, but in the heel, not so much. So pretty simple process, get it in a boot, take the weight off it, immobilize it 4 to 6 weeks. Ed was probably overtraining too much, under fueling, so his bone density and his testosterone both come back pretty low. And I guess, I'm not sure at the time, Ed, but you weren't really doing much strength-based work to supplement your running, so your strength profile was very low. And so we look at that and we go, you know, these are the times and this is the efforts and the intensity that he was running at prior to doing all of these things, under fueling, under strength. The aim is to bring all of those markers back to a high level and then let the natural running take back over.
It can feel lonely at times as well. Like, I sort of went from running with squads or running with my girlfriend and training partners, and then all of a sudden you're sort of at the gym cross training or on the bike by yourself. It's almost like you're starting out a new sport for a few weeks and you don't really have any sense of direction.
Progressing really well. It wasn't great initially. With an injury like that, unfortunately, it's just time. There's nothing you really do until the bone heals. It's a frustrating thing where someone like him is super motivated. They want to, what can I do to get it better? And the answer is nothing. It's just time really heals bones and things like that. So all he could really do was just try to clean up everything else.
You're doing forms of exercise where you're not getting the same enjoyment out of it as you are with running. There are so many different ways to cross-train, whether you're swimming or bikes or elliptical. So I think, like running, you got to find out what works for you and how much you A, physically can do, and B, how much you want to do. So at the moment I'm about 5 weeks into my rehab. Everything's going pretty well. I just got out of the boot a few days ago. Hadn't had any ankle pain for the last few weeks, so that's all going well. I guess now it's sort of starting to reload the calf. I'm getting a bit of a strength back, just so when I do get running again, my body's strong enough to be able to handle everything I've been doing. But it's all the little things, a lot of strengthening exercises to just make sure the body doesn't break down again. The beach is just that one constant you can always come back to and come down to. We swim every day, whether it's raining or winter. Definitely that one happy place and that one constant, like, you can always control. Pretty lucky to live somewhere like this, so make the most of it. Try to get in for 20 minutes if I can. Do a few laps of the beach. But yeah, definitely one of those things that's good for the soul. I think the whole rehab side of thing is important because it's something which athletes often neglect when they are healthy. Like, if you're able to run every day, why take a step back and break down things like your form or which muscle groups are working or which ones you don't have to. Like, if you're still on an incline, like, you don't feel like you have to change anything up. But I think being injured and doing all these new things, like, it makes you get an understanding of all the other benefits you can get from the injury. Like, if I look back on it now, I am glad I got injured, because if I hadn't have had that stop where I've had to look and reassess all these things, I wouldn't have found all these other underlying issues or underlying things to work on. The whole marathon itself would have been pretty far-fetched. I know I was in good shape to run quickly, but getting a lot of tests done, I know I had a lot of other underlying issues I can work through now. So I know when I do come back, I can fix a lot of things and be a lot faster than I was, more efficient. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back running and building up again and seeing if we can do things differently. I'm excited to get back running. My first run back is going to be this afternoon on the Ultra G. I've got a plan from Brad Beer. We're going to do 30 minutes with a few runs, a few walks, and we'll see how that goes and build up from there. There will be a long process, and I'm going to have to cross-train and keep things going in that regard, but 2022 is a big year. World Champs, Com Games, and 4 or 5 other Australian teams. I think the injury as a whole, I'm going to take every positive I can. Obviously, it's been super frustrating not to be able to run, but I think it's just something everyone does go through. And if I can take all the positives from it, then I'll do what I can with it.